It's episode 1178, and it's the Relevant Podcast here in Orlando. I'm your host, Cameron Strang, and joining me from Nashville is our managing editor, downtown Emily Brown.
Hey, y'all.
And from LA, from Social Club Misfits, it's Marty.
Howdy.
Let's see. Jesse had an urgent client situation happen at the last minute, so he can't join us. And Derek, all week, he's been out of touch. He's not even been participating in the group chat.
Yeah, he kind of has.
Normally he tells me where he's going. This one he didn't.
He's been vague, and he's not telling us hey, I'm at the beach in the group chat. The group chat,
he keeps saying he needs money and stuff. It's really odd. He almost got kidnapped. Is that? I don't know what happened, Derek. Please blink if you're okay.
Prayers up for Derek Minor. Hopefully, by the time this comes out, everything's okay.
We'll have answers.
Yeah, the bail
is
paid.
Crazy though. We all are traveling because we were talking. I know Cam, you're going somewhere next week. Marty, you're going to Vegas in 2 hours.
Right after this episode. Yeah, right after this episode, I'm going to Vegas.
What are you doing in Vegas?
I have a show up to MGM Grand, which I'm really excited about. What are you doing in Vegas? Solo show. I'm serious. I got a show. It's a solo show. It's a conference for LV Church, Benny Perez's church.
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited to go. It was a last minute situation, but I love Michael and the team that they have there. And so anytime I've ever been in Vegas, it's always been for Rabbi Zacharias' ministry, which was out of Vegas, I guess. But so we did a bunch of those.
Oh, it makes sense that it was in Sin City. You know what I'm saying?
well, you know what? They his son would always book us, and he was he was really, really cool. And so this time it's LV Church and conference, and I'm excited about it. Ferns did his solo show in Denver. I'm doing a solo show in Vegas. It's gonna be exciting.
Today on the podcast, Marty, every music break, all three of the breaks are songs from Flop Era Volume 1.
Yeah.
Because I am obsessed with your new album, dude. It is so good. It is so good.
You know what? It's odd. It's funny because it's odd that this is where internally what artists are dealing with. Christian Apple, they like the music, but really mainstream is supporting me more than anything, which I've never received before, where I'm getting love from Apple mainstream, Amazon mainstream, and a lot of them, even the Christian writers on Amazon, were listen, we love the point of view that you have. It's different. And we like that. So, shout out to all the artists that are coming, bringing different point of view.
It's, and just even sonically, you figured out your own lane as far as in this space, because and even in the album, the front half and the back half have two different vibes. Front half is heavy hitters, it's energy music. And the back half is 90s hip hop. No, it's lighter shade of brown. It's it's chill. It's I keep finding myself, although I love Nope and I love Christian rapper and stuff like that, I keep finding myself listening to the back half, when I'm driving. Yeah. Because it's good
I feel
driving
the same.
music.
Those I feel I feel like growing up too, our albums would always have different ups and downs, right? You'd have your sad songs, I always knew that from the 90s. And I feel now you don't really get that. You really just get you get the brand, but I love sad music. I love happy. You need the balance, but those B-sides, they kind of stick with you a little longer. And actually I was on a deep dive last week trying to find what are my favorite sad songs from my favorite artists. And there's a couple I have where even Post Malone did a couple on his first album where I'm they're really depressing, but I just love those B-sides that maybe people just skip over because they're not hits,
Yeah.
I love depressing songs. It's actually kind of alarming because every year, the Spotify top songs, whatever, it is always very, and I'll post it and my friends will literally message me and be like, you good? Do you need to talk?
It's all you two. And for some
literally,
reason,
okay, I probably should admit this publicly. I think it was 2 years ago. The number one song was a Phoebe Bridgers song named Funeral. Oof. Which is probably one of her more depressing songs. And I literally had people messaging me what's going on, Emily? Do you need to talk? And I was no, I love a good sad song.
I love to cry in the dark. It's just the thing. My top song last year was "Kissed by a Rose" by Seal. Dude, believe it or not, true story.
I'm sure your top 10 is as weird as my kids, because at the end of the year, I'll just put on random old school stuff or whatever. He's like, oh, this is my number three most listened to song last year. And it's like Earth, Wind and Fire, Neil Diamond, like that band, like random stuff. I'm like,
he is an old man trapped in a
teenager's body. I love that.
Yeah, literally. I'm like asking about Neil Diamond or whatever. And I was like, how deep do you know Neil Diamond? Like, we're going to go into the catalog. And like, literally, I was pulling out some stuff. I wasn't doing like Sweet Caroline and stuff like that. I'm in the catalog. Yeah. And he's like, he pulled up his Apple remix or whatever it was list. And it was like this deep catalog Neil Diamond song was his number 8 song most listened to last year.
Amazing.
I'm like, I am impressed. Wow. Like, dude, like.
You taught him well. Yeah. That's what it is.
Yeah, anyway. All right, well, we have a great show in store for you. Coming up, we talked to Tara Leigh Cobble. You know her. She's an author. She's one of the biggest podcasters in the faith space. She does the Bible recap. It's always like literally number 2 on the Apple podcast charts every year, all year. A lot of people doing her Bible studies with her. She has a new book out last week that we talked to her about. So that's coming up later. At the end of the show, a week or 2 ago, I had Jesse and Derek on, and we did some table topics. Now I got Emily and Marty on. We're doing some table topics.
That's
what we're doing
the real
today.
Wise champs over here.
Yeah, we're going to have to edit a lot of the things I say. Let's
a lot of bleeps.
Yeah.
It's all about what's your favorite, most depressing song. It's stuff like that. You know, so.
I love it.
Oh, good. We're ready then.
Yeah, we're ready. All right, but stay tuned. Up next, it's Slices.
I don't understand what you're saying when you yell at me. My bad, my bad, my bad. Yeah, holding back laughs when you really mad, going off. I know it's really bad, but I don't understand what you're saying when you yell at me. My bad, my bad, my bad. Yeah, yeah.
You're listening to Marty and Spencer Kane. The song is Yell at Me. This is easily my favorite song on Flop Air Volume 1.
Really?
It is so funny to me. The entire song is about that you pushed your wife's buttons. She yells at you and you're saying, I'm sorry, I don't hear what you're saying when you yell at me. And that you're trying not to laugh at her when she gets really, really mad. That cracks me up so much, dude.
Yeah, it was originally called Beige Flag, but that's when Beige Flag was like trending. And I was like, I don't think people are going to get it because it's like a moment in history. I should have dropped it. Yeah.
How does your wife feel about that song?
She loves it. No, like, so the idea, so really how the song started was one day we were like pissed off at each other. We're upset. And in the middle of it, she like made a joke, like a really funny joke. And I was like, and it was almost like woke us up out of this like angry spell. And we were like, this is stupid. Like, what are we talking about here? And she's like, I don't know. She's like, I'm just hungry. And I'm like, let's go eat. And so that kind of song came like in the middle of like laughing of the middle of a fight, like a serious fight. And she made some joke about like my face or something like that. And it was a whole thing. She likes it. She doesn't care. I do approve stuff with her though. I'm like, are you cool with me saying
I was
like,
gonna say, this doesn't seem like something to surprise her with. Like, I wrote a song about you.
Yeah. She's kind of like, I don't even ask. She
it's the earworm.
Music.
It's the earworm though. Like that hook is always in my head. Like that's the song of the entire album that gets stuck in my head. So and it just makes me laugh. I literally, it's great. I totally get your relationship listening to this song, you know?
Yes. Yeah. And I don't feel like I've ever heard a song like that really talks about like being in love with somebody and just like having that moment where you're just like, that's pretty funny. Like that's okay. You know, what are we fighting? Like we're friends, you know?
It's really great. I was literally just listening to it with Cohen in the car this morning and he's like, you know, I was like, dude, this is hilarious. Like, listen to the lyrics, you know? And I was like, the picture I get is that Marty's wife is fiery and that Marty's stupid. And he's just sitting there.
You're right.
He's just like
classic sitcom scenario where the husband's
King of
like,
Queens. It's King of Queens.
Husband's out of shape. The wife is way too hot for the guy.
That's
you know, like that dynamic.
You're
like
King
the
of
wife
Queens.
is still. It's like Disney. We call it Disney Channel logic. It's like Disney Channel. You'll have like the mom is like beautiful. You'll watch a movie like Brink where the mom is like beautiful, and the dad's just like this out of work mechanic guy who's like just trying to figure it out. But the mom is like a real estate agent. You know,
it's great. Anyway,
I love those sitcoms.
All right, it's time for
Slices.
All right, what do you have, Emily?
Okay, so something you guys may not know about me is that I kind of love a good scam story. It's probably one of my worst qualities of mine, but like,
wait, do you like laughing at the victim? Do you like what's your appeal here?
It's just so like. This is like going to make me sound like a terrible person. It just is so interesting the scams people fall for because I'm like, how did you guys fall for that? Like, I want, like, I do have some empathy there, but most of it is just like, guys, come on.
You kind of deserve that. Yeah.
Like the money with the car pulled up, she handed him cash. Like that is just what were you thinking?
Yeah.
Let's like,
and you're the lady who figures this out, you know?
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like, where was common sense in this story? Not here. Got it. Anyways, all that to say, I've been having a great week because there's been an incredible new scam that I get to tell you all about. Hopefully you may not have heard about this, but there's a church in Mexico that's going viral because they've been helping people prep for eternity by selling plots of land in heaven.
Oh,
wow.
Yes.
How much do you think like heavenly real estate goes for these days? Take a guess.
Well, what do they sell it by? Is it
big,
an acre?
Right?
Is it a?
They're selling it by square meter.
Square meter, like 3 feet by 3 feet, kind of.
Yeah.
Which country is this in? Is this in America?
It's in Mexico. I converted it to US dollar though. So if you want to take
Okay. I'm going to say, man, I mean, I think heaven's pretty big. So I'm going to say $1,000 for a property. $1,000.
Well, but he's selling it by the square meter. So that's 3 feet.
How big is that?
About 3 feet by 3 feet. So if you think of a square foot at a house, like on Earth, going to build a new house on Earth, you're going to spend about $250 per square foot. So let's say times 9. So I'm going to say $1,500, $2,000, $2,000 per square meter.
So how big of a house would that be? Like, give me a reference. Is that California prices? Is that Florida prices?
I'm saying new construction, you're going to spend $200, $250 in a normal average American house right now.
Okay.
So if you're going to do a 1,000 square foot house, that'll be $250,000. If you're going to do a 2,000 square foot house, $500,000 kind of a thing to build it new. Right.
Interesting.
So
we got a little bit of Texas prices here.
Texas
prices.
Right. No, exactly. I'm saying this is middle America prices. Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah. Because that's probably what the guy wants to buy. He'll use that money for his actual
But he's
Texas
not selling
soil.
houses. He's selling land by the square meter.
Plots of land. It's plots of land. Yeah. So this pastor, who, by the way, did clarify he's got permission from God. So don't worry, guys.
That's good.
This is all good.
It's all clear.
He's selling a square meter. These are actually pretty cheap prices. It's only $100 per square meter. So you can get a pretty good house in heaven.
So like $200, you're standing still in like a square.
Yeah.
You can sit down at least.
Yeah.
What's crazy about this? So, this news broke on Twitter this week because someone posted like a picture of the brochure that he's been handing out. And there's like, I'm pretty sure it's an AI image.
Oh, he's involved like a Kinko's. I mean, like he's legit about this.
Yeah. He accepts PayPal, Apple Pay, MasterCard, Visa. Like it's like on the brochure what all he accepts.
Apple Pay.
It's just so funny. What's crazy though is like the brochure just has like an image of this family on like this golden staircase and this big house in heaven and stuff like that, and has payment details and has like one verse that like vaguely talks about, like a home in heaven and stuff like that. Nothing about buying plots of land though. But I have so many unanswered questions that I do need the pastor to address before I'm giving him $100 per square meter. Because like we talked about, how big is the house I can get? Like how much do I need in heaven?
How much do
I need in heaven?
He's
like do I need
real
a
estate
big house?
agent,
But he's not constructing. He's just selling you the lot. So
okay, so that's my also like. Do I have to also buy like construction? Like who am I paying for construction?
No, think about it.
Is he getting commission on it?
Listen, all these contractors, Christian contractors who died, they're already up there waiting for work. You just need to buy the lot. So
brick by brick.
So he's gonna get you saved, so you get admission, and then he's gonna sell you land up in heaven, and then once you're up there, you can wheel and deal with the guys who
kind of work with the designers.
Yeah.
But see, then like, do I get to pick where the plot of land is? Do I get to pick my neighbors? Like, there's a lot of unanswered questions here that if I'm going to really believe in this scam, which I never will, because it's, heaven's quite famously free. That's like literally the gospel. I thought we all knew that, but I guess
known
some
for
people
those things.
Yeah. Because apparently, according to reports, there have been a couple people who have bought into it. And so he's already made a couple $1,000s off of people who are trying to get a nice home in heaven.
I saw in your write-up, we published this past week. I saw in your write-up that, because I'm thinking, this is crazy. This is a one of one. You've informed me that this is not the first time a pastor has been selling heavenly real estate.
Not even the second time. This has happened a few times. So
huge in the Latin community for some reason.
Well, the other ones were in Africa, right?
So there was one in 2018. There was a pastor in Zimbabwe who he was selling tickets to heaven for converted to US dollars is about $533 per person.
Oh, not bad.
Taylor Swift Eras tour tickets price, like.
But why do you need a ticket to heaven? If you're saved, you get in.
That's what I want to know is like where
he's a pastor. I get a non-Christian doing this. Yeah.
Yeah. I need to know what piece of scripture are we twisting to get people to pay? Because it's like I read the Bible. Never once are we talking about, getting in the Ticketmaster queue line to enter into heaven. Right. It's just a quick prayer and I'm there. You know what I mean? But there was another one.
Quick prayer, step in front of a bus and you're there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I forgot that key point where I have to step in front of a bus. That's the only way.
Right.
But no, there was another story too of last year. There was a pastor in Uganda who he kind of did the same thing as this guy in Mexico, but he was like actually able to convince members of the congregation to liquidate their assets, including like their livestock, just to fund their home in heaven. And now I say that like I love a good scam. I do want to clarify. I generally do feel bad for these people who fall for it because then it's like, now their life both on earth and I don't want to say in eternity is messed up, but like they thought they were going to get a super nice home in heaven and build
it's sad.
It is sad.
What happens in like 10 years on the follow-up? Like, does the pastor still selling this in 10 years? That's always the question is like, I mean, pastors have seasons. It's like, all right, I'm over it now. We're the next thing.
Televangelists selling like prep, survival stuff and like, like end times, like, God's coming back on September 12th and, whatever. And then it doesn't happen. What happens? Well, they just find a new scam, it wasn't per meter. You need to do this as well. And they're just going to keep evolving the scam, man.
Yeah. Right now, there's a church down the street that they told their entire congregation to cash in 401ks to help them buy a building. And so and then it's one of the people on staff was like, can I have a raise? And the pastor was like, in this economy, no, after raising $2 million for this building that unbelievable what's happening right now in the church.
I had distant
horror
relatives
stories
that I heard about. They were young and they got involved in a charismatic church that had a very influential lead pastor, and they were very young and naive in their faith, and they just wanted to please God and do whatever the man of God said. And they ended up like moving cities. They sold everything. They sold her wedding ring, gave all the money to the church. It was just really sad. The whole family was just super concerned, I was like, but they thought they were doing the right thing, man. And then it did not end well.
The moral of the story is if a pastor ever tells you that you need to give him $100 for a tiny plot of land in heaven, say, not my Jesus, and walk away. Okay. Like please stop falling for scams. That's all I'm really trying to get people to do. Yes. Although I'll give up that piece of entertainment if it means that people don't get scammed into heaven. I'll sacrifice that. You're welcome.
That's good. All right. What do you have, Marty?
What's going on, guys? So I got a great story. What's going on is like the name of my new segment.
What's going on with Marty? I'm going to just play a jingle. I'm going to make a jingle. What's going on with Marty?
Wait, no. I like the way Cameron. What's going on with Marty?
What's going on with Marty? Yeah. All right. So
like an old newsy.
I do voiceovers.
Let's do it.
What's going on? All right. All right. So I got depressing news right up Emily's alley. So a little backstory. We are we considered the MTV generation?
I don't know. Nah,
I don't know. I think that's that's like my parents.
I mean, MTV played
80s.
music in the 80s and 90s. TRL ended in the early 2000s. I would say like 2004 or 5 would be like the end of it, it
all ended when the Moulin Rouge song came out with Lil' Kim, Pink, and Christina Aguilera. Like that was just the beginning of the end. Yeah, that was the beginning. Lil' Kim was on.
I would say you're the TRL generation, not the
definitely
MTV
TRL.
Generation.
It influenced everything.
It depends on what era of MTV, because it's like I watched MTV, but I watched like the dumb reality TV shows, which people would say was probably the worst era of MTV.
So you're the Teen Mom generation. Marty's the TRL generation.
Yes. Can we pick a different show than Teen Mom?
You're the Catfish generation.
Give me Jersey Shore at least.
I'm my parents blocked Channel 29 because I couldn't listen to secular music generation. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
It's not a representation here.
Yeah. Well, I have some depressing news. Big corporate wins again. They are now Paramount, who owns MTV, is deleting the archives of 20 years of journalistic archives, TV shows. They've completely wiped the website out. Actually, silently, they did this last month, and they replaced music content, journalistic content with reality TV content. So it's already started, but the article in the news is that Paramount is wiping the slate clean for all MTV. I mean, Kurt Loder interviews, David Bowie interviews, Michael Jackson, pieces of our history are completely gone. Sad story, because to me, you guys ever seen like the Book of Eli? Like that, the final piece of it. They have like the Quran, the Bible, like all this like artwork. It's like they're preserving it for like nuclear war. I always thought this was going to be a piece of that. I always felt like, but they've wiped it clean. And maybe Cam, you could speak on it. One of the reasons was just cost. I mean, I don't know how much that would cost to be backlining 20 years of articles.
Nothing. I mean, this is the deal.
For corporate, right?
Well, so MTV News shut down last summer. They ended, creating new content on MTVnews.com and on the channel. Okay, fine. So, but MTVnews.com still existed, and you could go and read, like you're saying, 20 years of old coverage.
Nirvana, different things
but the problem is like the site just sat there looking stale. And I think somebody in the brand thought, this just looks bad for the brand that we haven't updated the site in a year. We should just take it offline and push people to the current content. I don't think they anticipated people being upset about it the way they are. Who went and was like, watching old Kurt Loder interviews with Kurt Cobain? Nobody, but the idea that we can't is making people mad. I think they just got caught making a decision that they didn't really think through, honestly, because the idea of leaving 20 years of web articles online is, I mean, you're going to pay a few $100 for web hosting a month. If you're not updating it, it has no cost. And they're Viacom, they're Paramount. Yeah. They already have websites and web servers. It wouldn't cost them anything. So it's not cost. I think they just didn't think it through. They saw a stale old website. We're not doing MTV News anymore. Let's just take it offline. And the internet noticed and is upset.
Like the internet does, and they're pretty upset about it. I always felt like it would have been great to have, maybe a retro website, and make it cool, make it something. But it is a piece of history that did shape a generation. Most of the bands that we like today are from the TRL branch off. I was watching an interview yesterday with Tito, this boxer Tito, and anyway, he was talking about his 5 favorite bands, and I'm like, you are the most MTV generation. He's like, my 5 favorite bands is Korn, Limp Bizkit, is like Eminem, Dr. Dre, and Snoop Dogg. I'm like, all 5 of the biggest
2000.
MTV,
frozen time in 2000.
Frozen time, yeah. And so I just, it's a sad day for, I think, even the journal, I'm forgetting the word I'm trying to find, but even the writers of these articles, they express publicly on Twitter and different venues, like, hey, like, a lot of these interviews are even hard to get, and they preserve them at least, but they are completely gone. Here's the one silver lining I do have for anybody who actually is interested in looking back on Wayback Machine. They have backdated some of the most famous articles, so you can see them, but it's almost it's hard to put into words the significance culturally, how impactful it is to delete all these interviews, and Kurt Loder, and there was another lady. I mean, all the VJs, and there was another lady. I haven't heard this name in years, but Alison Stewart. So many different talking heads that really. I mean, I remember even thinking about this. When I remember watching MTV at 4 a.m. and being like, Vern. Remember little mini me guy, Vern Troyer, right? I was like, when he died, I remember watching that on like 4 a.m. on MTV News and just crying. And I had to be like 14. I was like, oh man, like Vern Troyer died. Like I felt sad that he died in Vegas with a bunch of women and cocaine around. But that's neither here or there.
He was probably at a Ravi Zacharias conference.
Okay, all right. First I was the person that got edited, and now it seems like Cameron.
No, I 100% get what you're saying. Like, I mean, just as a journalist, like, I would be crushed if there was articles that I had written and I'd worked on. Like, I mean, there's so much work that goes into an article. I mean, media is in a really honestly frustrating state right now. And I think a lot of people try to discredit journalists, but like we do work really hard, and like we, it takes a long time to get those interviews and write those interviews and, compel those questions and stuff, and or comprise those questions. And so the fact that there's artists or there's articles that people worked on and like poured their heart and soul into.
Yeah.
And if they didn't have a clip of it saved on a Word document or PDF, like how are they going to access it? Like even just for their personal self.
But besides the interviews, I mean, it's like the coverage of pop culture has been deleted for 20, 30 years of coverage. And it's just like Pitchfork is out of business. What's going to happen to 20 years of Pitchfork coverage coming up?
It's true.
There's brand after brand after brand. I saw a BuzzFeed News writer lamenting this decision because it's like, well, what happens if BuzzFeed News goes out of business? Everything I've ever written gets deleted. My career didn't exist. It's just like, it is a substantial thing, but just aside from the personal side of like, oh, it's too bad for the journalists who worked really hard. Yeah. It's like, this is literally our live journaling of what's happening in our culture. Like, it's just weird to say, oh, let's just delete that,
Yeah. It's also interesting too, like, cause I mean, media literacy, I feel like I've said this before, is in its flop era, to borrow from Marty. Like, it just, people are, I honestly absolutely misremembering things online and just saying it so loudly. Cause like I see it a lot on Twitter where people, will say things like, oh, like this is crazy. Like, this artist is doing this and that's never happened before. And it's like, no, actually, like this happened to Michael Jackson or this happened to this artist, like there is like this music history, and like that's like places like MTV News are a place for people to go and see, like, how did the music industry get here? How did the TV industry get here? Like these things don't just happen in a bubble. Like they've progressed. And so, I don't think we're going to be better off as a society that we don't have 20 years worth of cultural history now missing.
I wonder if those writers could, get some of the articles and make a book out of it. Here's the only reason why I say that is
because Viacom Paramount owns the copyright to the stuff that they paid for. So if you're on staff, the company owns the copyright. If you're independent, you could negotiate to own your own copyright. So
I know the New York Times has whatever year you're born in, they can give you a book with your name on it, and it has every article for that year, like the biggest articles and pop culture to everything. You could buy that. So like I'm born in 1987, everything from that I can get. Right. And so I think that's cool. I think the MTV should offer something like that, just because it's a good book. It's a good pop culture. It's a piece of our history, and deleting it is just crazy to me. You're deleting the Mona Lisa of significance in our lives.
It's just the difference between written/print media feeling substantial, lasting, more credible, and digital media and visual media like television feeling disposable, fleeting, unimportant. And it's like, but we're in a digital society. So from now moving forward, our cultural record and news record is digital. So it's like, if we just start deleting decades at a time, what's the future going to look like? There's going to be no record of this period of history if we're only relying on what was printed. You know what I mean? It's just weird. Anyway.
And kids, all the kids know about MTV is that it has ridiculousnliceness.
That's all it has. That and Jersey Shore.
Replaced for ridiculousness.
And Emily's favorite show, Teen Mom.
Teen Mom, Teen Mom.
So. I did Teen like Teen Mom. Sorry. I liked it. It was interesting.
I was just joking. All right. That'll do it for Slices. Make sure to check out relevantmagazine.com, where we have not deleted 24 years of content.
Let's go.
We cover the intersection of faith, culture, and everything in between. Now that you don't have MTV News, you might as well just bookmark our website.
That's right.
All right. Stay tuned. Up next, Tara Leigh Cobble joins us.
Yeah, I be the rap, what keep you the lot. Camouflage hat with his shorts up high. Should've buckled up, it's gonna be a shook night. Tokyo drift, cause we gotta slide. It don't really make sense, hopping off the day shift. How you got a job with a song on my playlist? Say less, I just gotta ask you one question. Is God still God without the blessing?
You're listening to Marty. The song is Questions. I like that one. Well, today's show is brought to you in part by World Vision. We all subscribe to a lot of services that make our lives easier and more entertaining. But as followers of Jesus, we should want to seek first the kingdom of God in all areas of life, including our spending. That's why I'm so excited about a new kind of subscription through World Vision. Not one for myself, but for others. It's called Believers for World Change. And when you sign up, you're joining a community of change makers working to help end extreme poverty around the world and here at home. World Vision is a Christian humanitarian organization that works with children, families, and communities to reach their God-given potential, focusing on things like gender equality, spiritual nurture, and access to clean water, education, job training, and healthcare, so the entire picture of poverty can be addressed. Let's subscribe to something new together. Subscribe to World Change today at worldvision.org. Again, that's worldvision.org. Well, our guest today is Tara Leigh Cobble. She's a speaker, author, and the founder of D Group, an international network of discipleship and Bible study groups. You also know her from the Bible Recap podcast, which literally is number 2 and has been for years and years and years, where she guides listeners through a chronological reading of the scriptures each year. We sat down with Tara to talk about the importance of diving into the Bible on our own and how you can grow more with your community. Here's Emily's conversation with Tara Leigh Cobble.
Well, you are the host of the Bible Recap, which is one of the biggest podcasts out there right now, especially in the Christian space. But I don't know if a lot of people know sort of why you got started or how you got started. So can you tell just the origin story of the Bible Recap?
The Bible Recap launched January 1st, 2019, and that was when the podcast debuted. Like, since then, the book has come out, the YouTube, but the podcast audio was the origin story of the Bible Recap. And I basically built it for 10 years prior to that. I'd been leading this Bible study. It started with me and 9 college girls in a living room, and it just kept growing and growing and growing. And there were, I think, maybe 200 D groups at that point. We called them D group, discipleship group. And every year I would read through the Bible, and every year I would encourage people to read it with me. And they would start off strong in Genesis and then, taper off somewhere around Exodus, Leviticus, first half of Numbers. And that was a very relatable story to me because growing up in the church, I had experienced that so many times. And so leading this Bible study with all these people around the world who are starting and falling off like I did, I just was eager to solve that problem. Like, how can I help these people finish? And the reason that I was able to finish the first time successfully was because a pastor friend of mine offered to answer my questions along the way. So instead of, I just got a call failed. You're still there though. Okay. Instead of falling off, I was growing in understanding. I was eager to keep reading, and instead of accumulating confusion, I was accumulating understanding and knowledge that was stoking the fires of my desire to keep reading. So one of my girls in my Bible study said to me, the time that you did it the first time through successfully was because someone answered your questions along the way. Would you be willing to do that for me? And so I said, sure. So I read through with her. And when she was about to finish the Old Testament, she said, we're on a little walk on the Katy Trail here in Dallas. And she was like, man, I can't believe I'm about to finish the Old Testament. I never would have been able to do it if you hadn't walked me through it. And then I thought, well, that's why I finished it. Maybe this is the key. Maybe this is how people read the whole Bible, is someone walks through it with them, answers their questions along the way so that they're accumulating understanding instead of confusion. They are really understanding the meta narrative, because when you're rolling through it for the first time, it's hard to make heads or tails of some of the stories and where they fit. And so somebody who has read it multiple times knows the whole through line and is able to say, hey, the part that you're in right now is really confusing. Don't worry. It's going to make sense in about 6 months when we hit Hebrews, something like that. So I wanted to do that for as many people as possible. And that's why I created the Bible Recap podcast. It was a scalable way for me to walk the people in my Bible study through the Bible. My prayer when I started it was that 300 people would listen and that 300 people would read the Bible with me. So the Lord answered yes to that prayer.
So for you, what's your favorite part about doing the Bible recap?
One of the things that was a big shift for me, when I was reading through the Bible the first time, was I grew up in church, and I grew up in a space where, and I think this is human nature, we're reading the Bible to find our application point. What is my takeaway? What's my to-do list? How can I be a good Christian? How can I make God happy? Maybe so that God will give me what I want. I viewed it as very transactional. And my pastor who walked me through the Bible the first time, there was a subtle shift. It seems very subtle, but the effect cannot be overstated. He told me to stop looking for myself when I read the Bible and to start looking for God. And so that was really hard for me. I was really used to looking for tell me the things I'm supposed to obey, the list I'm supposed to check, things off of to make God happy. And instead to go to scripture to look for the character of God, what he loves, what he hates, what motivates him to do what he does. And so when we do the Bible recap and people start to see the person and the character of God and they fall in love with him, it transforms their relationship with God, just like it transformed mine. It takes me from transactional to relational, from this, it just adds in layers of intimacy that I never had before. And so we end every day of the Bible recap with what we call the God shot, our snapshot of God and his character. And it's always what we've discovered about who God is based on the reading that day. You don't leave the Bible recap going, okay, today's assignment is you need to be nice to your kids. Today's assignment is don't cut anybody off in traffic. That's not what you leave the Bible with. You leave the Bible with, look at how incredibly patient and loving God is towards sinners. He is so patient and kind to people, including me, sinners like me. And then you're buoyed by the character of God and you're sustained to go through your days pouring out what has been poured into you by God. And so I just love that the Bible recap is this daily place where we get to focus on who God is and watch our hearts be transformed as a byproduct.
Well, on top of the podcast, you're also releasing a devotional series called Knowing Jesus. Earlier this year, you released the book on Matthew, and just last week, you dropped the one on Mark. Why did you want to make a physical book?
So what we found was with the Bible recap, when we go through the New Testament, often people hit the New Testament and they're like, oh my goodness, it's so dense. I really just want to do a deep dive on the Gospels or a deep dive on the New Testament. And so we spend, if I remember correctly, the portion of the time that we spend in the Gospels is 45 days, approximately. So about a month and a half. And it's a lot, there's a lot in there. And we talk about, there are these 4 lenses. The Gospels each have a unique lens on who Jesus is. Jesus as King, Jesus as servant, Jesus as Savior, Jesus as God. And so doing these 4 studies, we've released 2 of the 4, these deep dives, it gives our people who do the Bible recap who are like, I want more meat, I want more depth, I want to dig more in. And it's also obviously works for people who aren't doing the Bible recap, who just want to do a study on those books and the person of Jesus. But that was such a great opportunity for us to dig in, a felt need that we knew our audience had of wanting more time and depth in the Gospels. We're like, all right, you want to know Jesus better? Sign me up. I'll be happy to write that study. So we started, and I think the last one will release early 2025.
You also started an organization called D Group International. What is the mission or driving purpose of D Group International?
Everything we do is intended to help people read, understand, and love God's Word. I don't just want them to read it. I don't just want them to read it and understand it. I want them to read it and understand it and love it. And so D Group is a space where we get to do that alongside other real human beings, where we develop accountability, where we develop community, where we develop spiritual disciplines. So it's not just reading the Bible. It is confession of sin, scripture memory, serving together. And we have online D groups that still somehow manage to do a service project, even though some of them are in 4 or 5 different countries, and they're meeting online together every week to discuss this study. And they somehow find a way to do a service project together. And so it's just this incredible opportunity to build rich community while studying the word together. We believe community happens best as a byproduct of being on mission together, not when community is the goal itself. And so when we're on mission to know and love God, we're building rich community with people that are very unlike us sometimes, people that we maybe never would have chosen to be in our inner circle. But we're building richer relationships with them than with somebody who maybe fits our exact demographic. And it's really beautiful.
Yeah, that's a really great perspective. How would you say people benefit from having a really diverse community?
Oh, it's so cool because you get perspectives that you've never encountered before. You get wisdom that comes from a different kind of life experiences. So my friends who got married at 19 have no idea what life is like to be single beyond that. And me, as a single person who's never had a husband or children, gets to learn what that is like. And having a grandmother in that space, or having somebody who maybe is a missionary in another country and they're living in a totally different culture and they get to bring that conversation to the table, it just opens up our understanding in a way that if we stay siloed off and we only hang out with people who look like we do, like what we like, talk like we talk, vote how we vote, we don't experience those conversations and we don't get to understand. Emily, that's what the body of Christ looks like. The body of Christ is a rich, diverse tapestry of every people, tongue, tribe, and nation. And so, come on, don't we want our community groups to look like that? I want my community group to look like the kingdom.
That was Tara Leigh Cobble. Make sure to check out her new study on Mark. It's called Knowing Jesus as King. It's out now. All right, stay tuned. Up next, it's Table Topics.
It don't matter what I look like. I don't need no Sunday choir. I'ma worship God like I'm in my room. Nobody watching, it's just me and you. Yeah, come on. I can sing it loud as I want, turn the music up in my room.
You're listening to Marty and McKenna Johns. The song is In My Room. Well, today's episode is brought to you in part by American Prophet. What would God say through a prophet today? In the speculative new fiction book, American Prophet, Peter has dreams of major events that keep coming true. Heralded as a modern-day prophet, he also attracts conspiracy theories and violent threats. Forced to the open road, Peter strives to remain true to his calling as he drives deep into the heart of a divided nation. Download your copy of American Prophet today. Well, Relevant has a lot happening this year, and we don't want you to miss a thing. Make sure to sign up for our newsletter right there on the front page at relevantmagazine.com, and we'll send you our top 5 trending stories sent to your inbox every weekday. We'll also send you a weekly podcast newsletter with the latest episodes, some fan extras, and first peeks at the new shows that we're going to be rolling out throughout this year. Make sure to sign up. It's the best way to keep in touch with everything we got going on.
Marty, when you do a collab with someone, I'm always so curious about this. Do you reach out to them? Do they reach out to you? How does that work?
I do have people reach out to me and ask hey, if you have an album, I would love to be on it. I have some people try to time their release with another release. And so we've had that in the past, usually never accept those ever. For this song, actually my buddy John Words Played, who's makes music with Andy. He was like, it would sound really good to be a girl in the song.
John Wordplay, that's his first and last name. His name.
I had to give the whole.
His artist name is Wordsplayed, but his name is John.
Yeah. So, Magic Bird from Magic Bird fame. But anyway, he suggested it. Yeah, he suggested it and was like, it would be really cool to have a female singer. One of the things that I feel like in Christian music is there's no young female singers, right? It's you're Lauren Daigle and then
Riley Clemens.
Riley, I would say Riley is it. though. Like there's even breaking out Riley, because Riley is the same management team I have. Even breaking her out was pulling teeth and just working it, you know. But McKenna is a young up and coming singer, part of a group called The Young Escape. They're great. And so, her brother's an incredible producer, helped me produce half of the song. Asked her, it was simple. Yeah. Simple.
It seems,
1, 2, 3.
like, I don't listen to like K-Love type music. We don't really cover it, but it seems like in the Christian music CCM world, it's interesting you're saying that. I'm trying to think through like the female names I know. They're older,
adult,
and a lot of them can, because they sing adult contemporary music. You know, so a 23-year-old's not going to sing that style. And it seems like if you're female, passionate about God, cool, and can sing, you're going to like lead a worship team, like SEU worship has cool females, or Elevation worship, or whatever. But they're not like solo radio artists. That's interesting.
Anna Golden is another one that comes to mind. Like we've had her on the podcast.
Love Anna. Yeah, I love it. She's actually a really, really cool person in like reality. Like she's one of the coolest people I've ever met. Like, she's like us. We're fit in perfectly.
She actually invited me to her album release party because it was in Nashville. And it was super cool. She had a bunch of like.
Did you get super drunk?
No. She did have temporary tattoos though, of like her own tattoos that you could put on. And I was like, that's actually really cool. Like,
that's pretty funny.
Yeah. You know, believe it or not, it wasn't the first couple like female artists like Jackie Velasquez, right? Stacey Orico, like these young girls coming
James,
in.
The elder statesman of freaking country. Yeah.
They were all super young, and now we don't have any of that music anymore.
Dude, I saw some Christian Retro IG account post the other day, a music video of Stacey Orico, and it was like, you know, y'all don't know. She was our Christina Aguilera. You know?
She was our Michelle Branch, Christina Aguilera, all four of those artists in one.
I'm sorry, but I watched the music video, and I remembered that era of Christian music. She couldn't sing, man.
It was
a good look.
It was just and I remember they were trying to get anything to be on like TRL. They were trying so hard. It would always be like 4 a.m. in the morning. You'd see it and you're like, oh, that's Stacey Orico. What is she doing here? Singing in a high school. She was
doing her best. That's what she was doing.
But then they had JoJo. They have 14 different versions of that one artist. So it's hard to, you know.
Yeah. You know, JoJo was only 12 years old when she first started.
I want to read that book. I want to read her book.
What are you talking about? Who's JoJo? I don't know who that is.
It's just JoJo a little too late.
I know JoJo Siwa. Is that who you're talking about?
Absolutely not.
This one, no. But JoJo was an original singer. Yeah, she's doing the thing with Mario Lopez. But JoJo was a singer who got signed and did really well. She was in a couple movies, did really well. But her label really manipulated her contract, manipulated her money. And so she actually wrote a book about it and about how fans still love her to this day. She's got a big cult following, and so her book is all about
Obviously,
the industry.
I'm one of them.
But
my wife is one of them, believe it or not, really loves JoJo,
She's so great.
But like that era of Christian music labels, like, I mean, I was, I covered the industry. Like I've been covering this stuff. Like before Relevant, I worked in Nashville working for some Christian music magazines. And like it was notorious in that like 90s to 2000s era of Christian labels. They signed people to predatory contracts. Like I remember Jars of Clay, who was one of the biggest groups, got locked by Providence to like a 6-album deal. They never saw another dime for like the full 6 albums. They saw their upfront money. They toured it, obviously. And I remember when they finally spit out that last one to fulfill their contract, they were like, we're just done. And they just walked away after they finally
phoned it in,
after they finally fulfilled it, like they just couldn't make any money. One became a barber after that, It's just like,
and one of them was like valet car.
I feel so bad because they were like the headlining Christian festivals. They were like one of the biggest bands for 25 years and like 20 years. And then they made no money because of the label deal they signed, And
a lot of that,
I met one of them at a bar in Nashville.
Oh, nice. He asked me to sing at his house for him with a guitar, acoustic guitar, just sing to you, just you and him. But the part of it that's people don't understand this about labels, and I just got off a major. The hardest part about labels is not it's mostly there's so much turnover, right? So the person who signed me is now the president of the company, And if I wasn't signed by him and the person who was championing me left, who else is going to, who's going to pick up the slack and be like, hey, we love those guys. And so a lot of what happened to us, even at Social Club, is you start out with a staff of 13 people who are all about you. And one by one, they start getting promoted or go different places. Some of them went to Compassion. So you have nobody you started with. You have people that you want to get excited, wanted to rile up, but they're already on the next artist. So
right. They want to do their artist. They want to,
so Jars of Clay had another, the person who signed them went to a different company, and Jars of Clay is still there. So it's like, who's talking about them? Who's excited about, who understands them? And there's nobody. So you have no one who's got your back. And that's the hardest part about signing to a major is you lose those people who are defending you and rooting for you. It's kind of sad.
And it's like, if you do a short-term deal, your team is there, but it's those longer-term deals that seem super appealing because they give you more money up front, but they're like the golden handcuffs and you can't leave. The label changes hands. Maybe it gets sold. A whole new team comes in. They shut down their marketing budget and you're stuck and like, you can't get out of it. And there's your career in somebody else's hands, man. Tough. So what you do, you put out your own album called Flop Era, and it's incredible. So there you go.
Which is named after that. The fact that when I met with a label, they were like, like 70-something% of artists who go independent after signing to a major, they flop. Like how are you going to make it work? And so that's kind of like my story is I took a leap of faith and trusted in God that he had a bigger plan, that it wasn't tied to somebody. It was tied to the music that I make for God. It wasn't tied to someone else's responsibility to make my career. And so that's kind of how Flop Era started.
If you flop, it's God's fault, not a label's fault.
Oh,
yes. Yeah. Well, also, and one of my rooting factors of like really winning and making sure this album was successful was pretty much vengeance, to show them that revenge. Like I just wanted to show them that they were wrong. That was a big piece of me winning. I was like, I got to show you guys that you don't know what you're talking about. And next year you might go to a different label. How do you know if you'll still be there when I'm
Yeah. Oh man. Anyway, all right. It's time for Table Topics.
It's Table Topics time.
12 minutes into the segment. Here we go. Just a random selection of cards. I grabbed them.
Let's do it.
All right. Marty, which moment from your life would you choose to relive if you could?
Yeah, I would probably go back to my wedding and like have more fun. I think that the wedding experience for me was so stressful. So much money was on the line, so much things that I really didn't enjoy it. And then my wife was always like, man, I wish we stayed a little longer and danced. And so just to not hear her say that anymore, I was just kidding. But I wish that I could go back without the stress of worrying about the money and the future and just be like, listen, it's time to party and have fun.
Just be in the moment.
Emily, be in the moment.
What about you? Which moment of your life would you relive if you could?
Gosh, that was such a great answer, Marty. Unfortunately, mine's probably just a concert I went to. I love concerts. I'm sorry.
No, it's good.
Wait. Don't say Taylor. Just pick one other than something that happened last year. So
Jars of Clay.
I'll do the first time I ever
saw
farewell
concert.
The time that the lead singer played for me in his apartment for 2 hours on the acoustic guitar, that was a good time.
There was a time. Okay, so when I think I was like
I gave
14.
him $20 to leave. He wouldn't leave.
Yeah.
So here's $20
I want to go now.
Yeah.
There was probably one of the most memorable concert experiences when I was 14. I was seeing a bunch of little emo scene bands like All Time Low, Boys Like Girls, kind of like those bands. Whatever.
I love it.
There was 10 bands that day that I saw. But during Boys Like Girls set, I went up on stage.
Oh, wow.
And so that was really fun.
You Courtney Coxed it? Did you do the dance?
There was a couple of us that went. I think he said come up on stage, and I was already at the barricade, the front. So I was like, no, you don't got to tell me twice. I'm there. So I did that. I also jumped on stage at another concert where I think that was an All Time Low one, but they did not get permission to do that.
You're the Anne Hathaway of this story. I get it. You're the thought of you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I'm sure
you're the
Anne
Hathaway and then the K-pop artist and the.
You guys are deeply online, so I'm sure you saw the video I'm about to reference on TikTok. That lady at the NSYNC concert who did this exact same thing happened in the last week. Have you seen this, Emily? So they asked a group of 4 or 5 super fan, ladies to come up on stage and they're performing. Well, this one lady who's wearing a sequin jacket, skinny jeans and ballet shoes. So the millennial dream, you know what I'm saying? She's up there and she's on the side, and she knew the dance steps of the song better than the NSYNC guys did. And so the other ladies are just kind of clapping and swaying like, hey, we're on stage with NSYNC. And this lady starts busting out the exact choreography. All the attention, including the band, everybody started like, oh my gosh. They kind of pull her out in the front, and she is just giving it. Everybody's losing their mind. It is like, this lady's gone viral because she's like living the millennial dream.
Should.
Yeah. So good for her. Anyway. All right. Would you live your life any differently if you didn't care what people thought? Marty.
I don't live my life right now where I don't care what people think at all. I really don't. I mean, even the way I park, even the way I talk to people, I don't believe in rules.
Wait. The way you park, let's talk about that. What do you mean?
So growing up, I had uncles who were really, really tough guys, real tough guys. And I remember one of the things that they would always do was they leave the car running all the time. For little things. And so I go to this, I'm in LA and it's known for people stealing cars, but I don't care. I'm an evil person. Let's just get out the way. I'll park in a handicapped spot, leave the car on, grab a coffee, go back in the car. I'll leave the car. I just don't care. I feel like, what are you going to do to me? What are you going to do? And so I live my life very much like I'm bulletproof, which is wrong. But nothing has ever happened to me, and people usually stay out of my way. So it's an attitude. I don't know. I
had a formative parking experience when I was a kid. We were visiting a very rich family that my parents knew in DC, right? They had yachts and whatever. Anyway, we're going to dinner, and I'd never met wealth like this, and I'm like 8 or 9. And we were driving in his 1950 vintage Bentley to dinner, right? And we get up, we come, he parks on the street. We were at the restaurant in downtown Alexandria, Virginia, or whatever it was. And it's like a push button. Anyway, he leaves the keys in the ignition, and the windows are rolled down. It's a beautiful day. He leaves the keys in the ignition, and we get out and we go into the restaurant. And I'm like, you left your keys in the car. Somebody could steal it. And he just goes, somebody takes it. They need it more than I do. And he didn't care.
Exactly how my uncles live their lives and how I live my life too. I mean, steal it. You're going to have a baby seat. That's the only thing I have in the car.
I mean, I'm like, that blew my mind that you could have so much money that you don't care about that. Anyway, take your keys.
I'm actually hung up on you saying the phrase formative parking experience because I think you might be the first human to ever say that phrase.
I mean, it shocked me. We parked the car and he left the keys in it. And his attitude was, it wasn't a mindless thing. He thought he chose to leave the keys and he didn't care because if somebody took it, they need it more than he does. So anyway, all right.
True gangster.
Emily, and there's a veto on this. You cannot say Taylor Swift. There's the question. What's your favorite band?
Oof.
She's going to say
One of these days we're going to dig.
She's going to say One Direction.
One of these days we're going to dig into the Taylor Swift hate.
Taylor Swift and One Direction are vetoed. You can't say what Taylor Swift One Direction.
Oh man, I was going to say.
Who's your favorite band?
I that's such a difficult question. Genuinely, I'll just go with right now. Aside from Taylor Swift and One Direction, I've been listening to a lot of Chappell Roan these days. So
makes sense.
I'll pick her right now.
Marty.
Favorite band right now would probably be Neil Diamond. No, I'm just kidding. That's your son's. My favorite band right now would probably be, I mean, this is stupid, but I've been getting back into MXPX. You guys remember that band?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So I found one of their old albums in my room when I was cleaning out stuff. And it's a green album where he's skateboarding, the guy's skateboarding on top. And I was like, whoa, these songs transform me back as a teenager. And so I've kind of doing deep dives on MXPX. Anything that's on the Tony Hawk Pro Skater soundtrack, I've been kind of going through it.
Love it.
Nice.
Love that era.
Mine's The Far Side.
Ooh, good one.
Yep.
The best.
Right. Marty, how do you measure success?
Success is if your kids want to hang out with you when you get old. That's what I've always heard from multi-billionaires. They always say that.
That's really sweet.
That's good.
No, that's true. It's if people like you when they don't need to like you, it's a good thing.
Emily, how do you measure success? Do you have enough money to buy whatever Taylor Swift concert you want? Ticket.
That's not how I measure success. I will say that. I don't know. Yeah, I think just if I can look back on something and be proud of it, like I think it's. I don't really care what other people think. I really like as long as I'm proud of it and I'm proud of my decisions and whatever I did to get there. Then that feels successful.
So fulfillment, like you just feel like you feel at peace with your decisions, your life, your whatever. Yeah. That's success. There you go. All right. What's your favorite cartoon character, Marty?
Bart Simpson.
Really?
Off the top, Bart Simpson shaped me as a kid, and that attitude of not giving a crap. Yeah, that's why I wasn't
allowed to watch him, because of his attitude.
His attitude, he's a smart aleck, and that attitude shaped me as a little kid. And I remember even like acting like him in school, you know, like kind of identify with the character, and so much that you start to pretend you're him. Like I did that during The Office. You know, I was watching so much of it, I would look at random places and go, like I was Jim, but I'm not. So I don't know.
Emily, favorite cartoon character?
Okay. I'm not going to lie. The first thought I had was Lisa Simpson.
Oh, that's funny.
Wow, that's funny.
So I want my brother and I to get Simpsons tattoos.
Really?
I have a couple friends who have Simpsons tattoos, believe it or not.
There's one I saw, I think on TikTok or something.
Is it going to be like Bart peeing on something?
No, there's ones that I really want to get. It's so my brother would get Bart like choking Lisa, and then I would get Lisa choking Bart.
Okay, that's actually pretty good.
One of my buddies has Bart Simpson as MF Doom playing an NPC. Yeah, my boy Ray Rock, who's Andy Mineo's EJ. Yeah,
that's.
I will cool. say, okay, Lisa, I do think is my favorite. My second thought though was the entire cast of Rocket Power. I loved that show.
Great, that was a great era.
So I'll put them in there.
Animaniacs, I enjoyed in the 90s, 2000s. All right, last one. Which of your mother's silly instructions do you still obey, Marty?
All right, so you know when you're driving at night and you put the light on, the cops will stop you if that light's on.
In the car, the back light in the car.
I still think to this day, yeah, it's so stupid. Like cops will never. I actually asked the cop, I'm like, would you start? Like, why? That's like, aren't you looking like you're not trying to reach in the dark? But as a kid, I get, even as an adult, I'm kind of like, shut it off. And that piece of advice kind of stuck with me forever.
Emily,
I'm really trying to think.
All my answers are like off the tip of my tongue. I'm like, oh, it's Bart Simpson, you know.
For some reason, the one I'm thinking of is my mom just always told me, like, before you leave on a trip, clean your room, so that way when you get back,
you have a good bed and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Feel fresh.
That feels kind of like she's giving me generally such good advice, and I don't know why I'm blanking on it, but I do still also follow the advice of I need to clean my apartment before I leave anywhere. So thanks, Mom.
There you go. All right, that'll do it for Table Topics. Yeah, that's fun. I like doing those.
These are great.
All right, before we wrap up, I want to thank Tara Leigh Cobble for joining us today. Make sure to check out her new book on Mark, her new study on Mark. What's it called again, Emily?
It's Knowing Jesus.
Knowing Jesus. It came out last week. It's available everywhere. Also, if you like the show, but you don't like commercials, you can remove them by subscribing to Relevant Plus. Go to relevantmagazine.com and check it out. You get this podcast ad-free. You get unlimited ad-free reading at the website, and our beautifully designed digital issue, which is coming out next week. Go check it out. All the info is there. You just click on the Relevant Plus tab. Plans start as low as $250 a month. We appreciate the support. It's the best way to experience our content. Okay, on that note, we'll wrap it. I'm Cameron Strang.
I'm Emily Brown.
I'm Marty.
We will see you on Tuesday. Have a great week, everyone.
Thanks for listening to the Relevant Podcast. Check out our features, interviews, and news updates every day at relevantmagazine.com. And make sure to follow Relevant on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest. For more great podcasts, browse the shows on the Relevant Podcast Network, which you can find at our site. And while you're there, don't miss the all-new era of Relevant Magazine. A new issue releases every other month at relevantmagazine.com.
Relevant Podcast Network.